Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Halftime Sports Talk Show. We are back again on another glorious Tuesday, and just reacting now to the new college football playoff rankings that have come out. And I gotta say, they really might have screwed this one up, guys. This one might be, I don't know. I haven't seen a rankings like this. This might be worse than the Florida State snub. But yes, your top four seeds as of right now are number one Oregon, number two Texas, number three is SMU, and number four is Boise State. So those are your top four seeds. Kind of going to break those down a little bit. Oregon coming off of a win against Washington last week in Oregon. Big win for the Ducks. They finished their season undefeated, the only undefeated FBS football team this season. So congratulations to them. They will be the number one seed as long as they do not lose to Penn State in the Big Ten Championship. We will be talking about that a little bit later. And then obviously your number two seed, the Texas Longhorns, who will be representing the SEC in the SEC Championship along with Georgia. That will be that matchup as well. And then you have the SMU Mustangs, brand new ACC conference regular season winner. Actually did not lose a conference game this year. So good job for SMU this season. They are your number three seed. And your number four seed is the Boise State Broncos. They finished 11-1 on the season. Only loss is to Oregon. And was a pretty close loss. It was 37-34, I believe. So yes, this is a huge top four seeding right here. And Boise State really good position. They will play UNLV this Friday though in a big matchup in the Mountain West Championship game. And then kind of breaking down your first round matchups, the on-campus matchups, you will have, as of now, you will have the number 9 Tennessee Volunteers playing the number 8 Ohio State Buckeyes. This one, if this plays out how it is going to play out, that should be a great matchup at Ohio State. This Tennessee team, did have a little bit of a scare against Vanderbilt to start that game on Saturday. If you guys watched the last week's game, Vanderbilt jumped out to a 17-7 lead, but ended up losing the game, I believe, 33-17. And actually, no, 33-20. I don't know what it was. I forgot what it was, but it was somewhere around that range, 33-20 something. But that should be a great game to watch. And Ohio State is coming off of um, a crazy rivalry week. Um, just a great rivalry week also. A lot of fights happened, a lot of flags that were planted. And I would now say we need to call rivalry week Flag Day after all those flags got planted at logos and a lot of fights happened. NC State had a fight with North Carolina. Ohio State and Michigan started the day off with a fight. Auburn and Alabama had a fight. Houston, BYU had a fight. Arizona State had a fight. Just a lot of fights going on Saturday. I believe there's 8 in total, but this Ohio State team coming off of a tough loss, and a lot of the rumors around college football right now is Ryan Day's job safe? And I don't think so. I'm starting to not think so with the way Ohio State's been playing, but they still are in this college football playoff poll that has recently come out today. Actually came out 11 minutes ago. So just a huge matchup there between the Vols and the Buckeyes. And your next matchup, as of now, is the number 12 Arizona State Sun Devils at the number 5 Penn State Nittany Lions. That's a great matchup there. The winner of that will take on Boise State if that's the way it plays out. Um, and obviously, this Arizona State team right now is just playing really good football. Beat Arizona 49-7. Huge victory for the Sun Devils on rivalry week. And then, Penn State got a big win against Maryland. We thought at the start of the game, a lot of people were like, "Uh-oh, maybe another upset happens," but Maryland could not hold the Nittany Lions, and Penn State ended up winning that game 44-7 with a huge victory. So the 12 seed is Arizona State, and your 5 seed is Penn State. And this is the most shocking one to me. The University of Alabama gets in the college football playoff. This this honestly, I'm going to talk about this for a minute. This is ridiculous. I mean, like this is absolutely ridiculous. Alabama has lost to Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and I mean, you could say, okay, Tennessee. Tennessee's a good team. That's the only good team they've lost to. Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma beat them by 17 points. They beat them by 17 points on the road. And this Alabama team, I'm sorry, but if Auburn would have scored in the red zone multiple times, this Alabama team would have lost the game, and they should have lost the game. And you see what's happened already. The committee, this is the thing about the committee. I'm sorry, I love college football, but this committee never ranks right. It never happens. They always snub a team out that's not supposed to. There's supposed to be a team that's supposed to be in there. South Carolina is supposed to be in there, and Alabama goes up 2 spots for beating an Auburn team that's 5-7 on the year. Not a very impressive victory by only 14 at home. That's not a very impressive victory if you ask me. And this is ridiculous. I mean, how much longer are we gonna have to witness the committee just ruin college football? I mean, like this is ridiculous. I mean, they'll play Notre Dame according to this as of now. Notre Dame is the 6th seed, and I hope Notre Dame whoops them. I hope they play Notre Dame, and I hope Notre Dame whoops them like Michigan whooped them last year. Because then this will just show that Alabama 2 years in a row did not deserve to make the college football playoff, but was put in based off of a name. And Kalen DeBoer, you can say whatever you want about the University of Alabama. Kalen DeBoer is not a good head coach. I'm sorry. I said he would lose 4 games at the start of the season. 3 to 4 games, actually, my mistake. And he did. He's lost 3 games. And I can guarantee you, when we see them get in the 12-team playoff, they will lose either their first round game or second round game. If they make it to the national championship, it's just because the refs help them out, because that's usually what happens with the University of Alabama. I'm sorry, but this is a ridiculous ranking from the committee. This was absolutely absurd. And I mean, just beyond words right now with the way the committee ranked this here. But anyway, gonna move on from that, from my little rant. Up next, though, you got the number 10 seeded Indiana Hoosiers, who will play at number 7 seeded Georgia Bulldogs. That's if Georgia does not lose the SEC championship to Texas. But Indiana will be the 10 seed. They're kind of the Cinderella of the season with their 11-1 record. Excuse me there. With their 11-1 record, they had a great season. Only lost to Ohio State, but great job by this Hoosier team to get that 10 seed so far. But, I mentioned the seedings, but if we go over the actual overall rankings, this is the way it works. I really don't understand it, but this right here, it's Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee. I don't know how Tennessee and Ohio State are ahead of SMU when SMU has 1 loss, but I guess maybe it's name. Same with Georgia. I don't know how they're ahead of SMU. SMU should be 5th, but I guess not. Um, but yeah, SMU's 8th, Indiana's 9th, Boise State is 10th, Alabama's 11th, Miami is 12th, Ole Miss is 13th, South Carolina's 14th, Arizona State's 15th, Iowa State is 16th, Clemson is 17th, BYU is 18th, Missouri is 19th, UNLV 20th, Illinois 21st, Syracuse 22nd, Colorado 23rd, Army 24th, and Memphis 25th. And this ranking, like I said, it's kind of bogus. I don't like it at all. I knew this was going to happen. You know, when it happened, like on Saturday, when all these teams got upset and stuff, I was like, Alabama's going to make the playoff because they got lucky again, and I sure was right. South Carolina, like I mentioned, should be in the 12-team playoff, and usually when you beat a team at their place and you're not favored, you usually should move up a lot, you would think, in the rankings, but South Carolina only moves up 1 spot after beating Clemson by 3 at Clemson. Not very impressive, is it? I guess it's not a very impressive victory that they beat Clemson at Clemson, and Lenora Sellers had probably one of the best games of his career at Clemson. But, I mean, it's South Carolina. Let's not put them in the top 12 just because it's their name and they haven't been to a college football playoff in God knows how long. So we'll just snub them out of there. But, this ranking, like I mentioned, it's absolutely ridiculous. Hate to see it for the Gamecocks. Really was wishing to see them in the 12-team playoff. But, of course, another year, same thing with the committee. They always ruin it for us. And you know, it's just heartbreaking to see some of these teams get, left out of the college football playoff. And we'll see. Maybe South Carolina still sneaks their way in after championship week, which I will be heading into now. We will be talking a little bit about championship week. This is week 15 of college football. We got some matchups, some pretty big matchups actually coming up this week. Friday you got the Mountain West and the American Athletic Conference Championship. The Mountain West, let's start with that one. You have UNLV at Boise State. It's weird. Last year I believe they played in Gillette Stadium, or not Gillette. Why did I say Gillette? It's the Raiders Stadium. They played in the Raiders Stadium last year, but I think UNLV was the home team, so that's why they played in UNLV. That's the way it works with these smaller conferences. You play at the home team, so Boise State is the better conference. They won the conference regular season, did not lose a conference game, almost lost to UNLV, but this Boise State team only favored by 4. Over under is 56. And honestly, this game's going to be a big game between Boise and UNLV because, like I said, they previously did meet this season. And both of these teams, I mean, they're really good teams. And I think possibly this Boise State team could win this, but I do see an upset possibly happening. This Boise State team, usually see it in some conferences like this. You'll see the like super team end up falling in the last game or the conference championship, and they'll end up not making. Well, obviously in this case scenario, since the first year of the 12-team playoff, Boise State would not make the 12-team playoff. UNLV would make the 12-team playoff as the 12 seed, obviously, but that's what would happen if UNLV were to win. I think UNLV could get the win, but Boise State, Ashton Jeanty, possible Heisman candidate. I think he should win the Heisman in my opinion. If he runs how he's been running all season, this Boise State team gets a big win and will advance into the 12-team playoff for the first time in their school history, which would be great for that program. But now moving away from the Mountain West Championship game, I do want to talk about the American Athletic one. The American Athletic Championship game, not much implications to it. It's going to be at West Point, going to be an Army. Not much implications going into this one. Army's 10-1, lost to Notre Dame. They can't make the college football playoff. Tulane's 9-3, lost to Memphis on Thanksgiving. Cannot make the college football playoff. And this game, Tulane's favored by 5, which I see that. I can see that happening because Army, they do score a lot, but I feel like this Tulane team has a great defense, and just watch out for them in this game to, stop Army's pass attack and their triple option. I mean, it's kind of hard to read if you're different. Like, if you're not used to the triple option, it's hard to read, but I feel like Army, might have some struggles against this Tulane team who's had a pretty good year. Tulane's been a historically good football program for the past few years as a non-Power 5 school. And, eventually I'd love to see him join a bigger conference like the Big 12 or something if they had the money to. But sadly, that's probably not going to happen. But it will be 26 degrees there in West Point, New York. So that's going to be a cold one for that Army and Tulane American Athletic Conference Championship game. Don't forget to check out those two games on Friday night. The Boise State UNLV game will be 7 p.m. on Fox, and the Tulane Army game will be on ABC at 7 p.m. Don't forget to check out those two championship games. But now moving to Saturday's championship games, like I mentioned, is Champ Week. Sunday, though, just going to kind of go away from Saturday really quick. Sunday is the Selection Sunday. That's a very big day. That's a very big day for college football. You will see the bowl games selected. The college football playoff poll will be finalized, and we will have our 12 teams locked in, and we will have our matchups ready for December 20th. But now, going back to the Saturday game, Saturday, December 7th, you have the Big 12 championship in Arlington, Texas between Iowa State and Arizona State. This is going to be a great matchup. Both of these teams coming off big victories. Iowa State beat Kansas State at Iowa State, and Arizona State got the big win on the road against Arizona in the rivalry week. But both of these teams, 10-2 on the season. Both, I mean, Iowa State maybe not a Cinderella. They've kind of been decent at football the past few years. Brock Purdy in the NFL now, who was a quarterback for Iowa State, and then Arizona State. Actually, that's been one of the big stories this season. Is Arizona State's been, you know, they were projected to only win like 3 games this season, and even myself, I projected them to win about 3 games this season. So, just a big turnaround for the Arizona State program. Kenny Dillingham, great coach. I mean, he possibly could win Coach of the Year along with Kirk Cignetti and maybe Deion Sanders. There's a few other guys in the running for that as well. But just a great job for that Arizona State program, and they definitely deserve to be there. And they are favored in this game by 2, which I mean I understand why. This Arizona State team just a great team, and I honestly feel like I feel like this Arizona State team you got to get out to an early lead. 14 point lead. That's what Arizona State's known to do. They score a lot, and Scadaboo, the running back, just a great running back. Possibly he's fifth on the Heisman list, but I don't know. We'll see if he does. I don't think he will go to New York. But yeah, I mean this game right here, the Big 12 championship, always, the team that's usually favored does not win. We've seen that in the past few years. Oklahoma State's lost, Kansas State's lost. There was that one year, I believe it was 2019 or 2018, Baylor was really good and they were favored and they could have made the college football playoff if they would have won, and they didn't. They lost to I believe it was either TCU or Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. So definitely hurt there. But this is gonna be a great matchup at 11 a.m. on ABC. That's gonna be the first championship game we see on Champ Week on Saturday. So tune in for that on Saturday, December 7th. It should be a great matchup between the Cyclones and the Sun Devils. But now, moving on to another championship game, big championship game, we got a rematch actually. This will be college game day. You got the Georgia Bulldogs versus the Texas Longhorns. And I mean, this game's going to be a great game. Georgia and Texas rematch. Texas's only loss is to Georgia. Georgia coming off of an 8 overtime win against Georgia Tech. That was a great game. I mean, just an incredible game. Maybe some bogus calls in there, which there was, but just an incredible game between the Bulldogs and the Longhorns the last time they played, and obviously the trash on the field incident. But I think this game, in Atlanta, Georgia's going to get the home field advantage. But Texas, their fans like to travel well, so I think this will be an evenly matched game. But honestly, my hot take here is I think if Arch Manning plays, that Steve Sarkisian's going to have to make a Nick Saban move. For those that don't remember, Nick Saban in 2018 when Georgia and Alabama played in the national championship, he decided to bench Jalen Hurts, who was having an incredible year. Only loss was to Auburn in the final game of the season. And he was having an incredible year. He decided to bring in the now Dolphins quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tua absolutely popped off and ended up winning the national championship for Alabama and was the quarterback for a few years after that and got drafted in 2020. And maybe Steve Sarkisian does the same thing Nick Saban did. Maybe Quinn Ewers comes in for a little bit, plays bad. Arch Manning comes in, and then Quinn Ewers goes to the draft. We never hear from him again, and Arch Manning becomes the Longhorns quarterback for a few more years. And I think that might be the right decision. I think Arch Manning, if he plays, he could get Texas a win. But I think if Ewers plays, Georgia's defense has already figured him out, and they'll figure him out again, and they'll be able to stop him. And I think Georgia will get a big win and get like the 2 or 3 seed in this college football playoff when it comes Selection Sunday. But that is the SEC championship between Georgia and Texas. Don't forget to tune into that at 3 p.m. on ABC. That will be a good matchup to watch for sure. A rematch in the making. And, it's going to be a great game for both teams, I think. SEC championship's always a good one to watch. But another good one to watch is going to be the number 3 Penn State Nittany Lions versus the undefeated number 1 Oregon Ducks at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Both these teams traveling pretty far distances to get there. And I think this is going to be a great game. Penn State, a lot of people would say, oh, well, Penn State hasn't really played anybody, um, and their losses to Ohio State. But I think this Nittany Lions team might be well prepared for this game. We'll see. I honestly feel like they could be ready and maybe beat the Ducks, catch the Ducks off guard. But Dylan Gabriel's had a pretty great season. He's had a stellar season so far. And I mean, this is going to be a highly scored game. Like, both of these teams are going to score a lot in this game. And I don't think, honestly, I think this could be a very, very high scoring game. Um, and it's going to be a good one at Lucas Oil Stadium at 7 p.m. And both these teams' offenses have just done great all season. And we'll see what happens between the Ducks and the Nittany Lions. It's on 7 p.m. on CBS, so that's going to be a great game to watch for sure. Oregon is favored by 3.5. Over under is 49.5. So for any of you betting people, look out for that line to maybe go up for the Ducks or maybe even go down towards Penn State's favor. We will see. But that is 7 p.m. on CBS. And then the last big conference tournament is obviously the ACC Championship in Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. That's going to be a very cold game, 37 degrees. SMU is actually favored by 2.5 against Clemson. And I mean, this SMU team been the story of the ACC this year. SMU comes in first season and dominates, wins every conference game they play, absolutely dominates. This SMU team, definitely a team to look out for. If they make the college football playoff, that's going to be huge. I told my great friend Max Mesman, I told him that, I was like, I told him this in August. I was like, I think SMU is going to win 11 games this year. And I was right. SMU won 11 games. If you actually go look at Halftime Sports Talk Show TikTok account, you can go back like way back. I mean, obviously we post every day, or I post every day, but I mean, you can go way back and look at SMU's schedule prediction, and you can see um, I predicted SMU to go 11-1, and I was correct. I said their only loss would be to Florida State. It was not. It was to BYU. But this SMU team definitely deserves to be there at the ACC championship for sure. Clemson, coming off the loss to South Carolina by 3 at home, they're definitely going to be angry, losing to a rival. But this is going to be a very good game. I think it'll be a high scoring game as well. Definitely going to be cold, but we will see if the Mustangs can get the job done and win their first conference championship in the ACC as a new member. And that's going to be a really, really big thing if SMU can win it in their first year in the conference. But that will do it for college football so far. I mean, obviously, not a lot of games this upcoming weekend. We don't have many because obviously it's championship week. A lot of teams on bye waiting for their bowl games to be selected. And speaking of bowl games, actually, I will stay on college football for a second. Just to mention that there is 2 bowl games that have been announced. The IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl has been announced. It will be the South Alabama Jaguars versus the Western Michigan Broncos, and that will be at the Crampton Bowl just down the road from Auburn, Alabama, in Montgomery, Alabama. That will be on the 14th of December, so that will be during the Army-Navy game, or like during the same day. And then I believe the other bowl game that was announced was the Hawaii Bowl. That's always a great bowl. Love that bowl game. Always on Christmas Eve. It's a tradition that people watch it on Christmas Eve. And that will be South Florida versus San Jose State. So that should be a great bowl game. So those teams will go to a bowl game after having decent seasons. And, honestly, that's good, but we will see more bowl game announcements come soon. Selection Sunday coming out this Sunday. We will see the bowl game announcements as the committee puts the teams where they're supposed to go. But we will see on Sunday. Obviously, next episode will be next Tuesday, so we will react, or I will react to the rankings and the bowl game placements and who I might predict some bowl games and see who's going to possibly win. But now going away from college football, I'm going to jump into some college basketball. This week, big week for college basketball. You got all these challenges. You got the ACC, SEC, you got the Big East, Big 12 challenge. So very big week. You got Big Ten conference play starting. So this is going to be a huge week for conference play and also just challenges like these ACC, SEC, and Big 12 and Big East challenges. But I do want to get in the rankings really quick. We had a stellar week last week. I mean, just a great feast week, as we talked about last episode. Feast week, obviously the best time of the year for college basketball. And I mean, did not disappoint. The Maui tournament was insane. Auburn hit a buzzer beater against Iowa State the first game. And then you had UConn lose 3 games. UConn lost 3 games. The defending national champions are losers of 3 games in the Maui tournament. Did not win a single game. North Carolina came down to the wire with Dayton in the first round, but got the job done. And then Auburn just absolutely ran over everybody they played and won the Maui Invitational. Kansas and Duke was a highlight of the week as well, with a great game from both of those teams. And it was just a stellar week for men's college basketball. And, I'm going to dive in the rankings really quick. Your number 1 team with 35 first place votes is Kansas. Your number 2 team with 26 first place votes, Auburn. And then 3 is Tennessee, 4 is Kentucky, 5 is Marquette, 6 is Iowa State, 7 is Gonzaga, 8 is Purdue, 9 is Duke, 10 is Bama, 11 is Wisconsin, 12 is Oregon, who did climb 14 spots into this rankings. We will talk about that in a second. And then Florida, 13th, Cincinnati 14th, Baylor 15th, Memphis 16th, Houston 17th, Pittsburgh 18th, Illinois 19th, North Carolina 20th, Oklahoma 21st, Texas A&M 22nd, Ole Miss 23rd, San Diego State 24th, and UConn falls 23 spots to 25th. But we will kind of break down this AP poll really quick. And to be honest, I'm kind of disappointed in the committee here, or in the sports writers. I'm disappointed in what they did. They snubbed Auburn out of a number 1 spot because, honestly, in my opinion, I am an Auburn fan, but this is going to sound biased. They definitely are the number 1 team in the country for sure. Like, without a doubt, they've played some of the best teams in the country. Actually, we'll play Duke tomorrow night in Cameron Indoor, so look out. Excuse me there. Look out for a great matchup between Auburn and Duke in Cameron Indoor. Cooper Flagg, Janiah Broome, and then Tahad Pettiford and Connor Knuppel. That's just great matchups between players, and it's going to be a great night tomorrow night for college basketball. And this Auburn team deserves to be number 1, but was, snubbed because Kansas did get a win against Duke. But Kansas really, to me, is a little overrated, and I think Auburn will pass them if Auburn gets a big win in Cameron Indoor. Auburn has 2 games this week, 1 at Duke and 1 at home against Richmond on Sunday at 11 a.m. So those should be 2 games to look out for the Tigers if they want to get that number 1 spot. And then obviously, Tennessee, Kentucky kind of figured they'd move up a little bit. They played pretty good. Marquette, they've been playing some good basketball. Iowa State, they're a pretty good team. Only loss was to Auburn. They only moved down 1 spot, which is great for them. I think this Iowa State team will be a great team in the tournament come March. This is a very good team, very fast-paced team. Iowa State plays fast-paced basketball. Watched them play against Auburn, and that was a great game. And they got some guards that can light it up from the 3, so definitely a team to look out for in Iowa State for the rest of the season going into Big 12 play and in March. And then Gonzaga, obviously, they're at 7th. They only lost 1 game to West Virginia in the first round of the Battle for Atlantis tournament. West Virginia, got a few big wins, but did not win that tournament, actually. I forgot who won it. I think it was Oklahoma that won that tournament, but big upset for West Virginia against Gonzaga. And then Purdue, climbed up a little bit after beating a few teams in their tournament. I don't know what tournament they played in, but they did beat a few decent teams. Purdue, number 8 in the country, moved up 5 spots, and they are 7-1. And then Duke moved up 2 spots after playing close with Kansas and then beating Seattle. Duke moved to 9th. That's pretty respectable. So it's going to be number 2 versus number 9 tomorrow night in the ACC SEC Challenge. And then, you got Alabama at 10th. They did drop one to Oregon in the Players Era Festival, which is the NIL tournament now in Vegas. So that's a great tournament. between those two or between those teams, and it's uh it's obviously going to be huge to see what Oregon can do later on down the road. Um, and then Wisconsin, they've been playing great basketball. They're number 8 in the country, or they're number 11th, and they're 8-0 on the season. Wisconsin moved up 4 spots. This Wisconsin team just very good, and they play Michigan later on this week, who's been pretty good. Michigan's been pretty good. They are in the receiving votes. I believe they have 95 receiving votes. Um, and then like we said, or like I said, behind Wisconsin, Oregon is 12th. They're, 14 spots up. We're not ranked last week, but moved 14 spots up because they beat Alabama. And Oregon 8-0. 8-0 Oregon. That's very, very huge. I mean, that's going to be big if this Oregon team can continue to do what they've been doing. And then obviously Florida, Cincinnati, Baylor, Memphis. Memphis actually was a team too. I mean, they climbed up 10 spots in the rankings, and this Memphis team just very good so far on the season. And I think Memphis is going to be that's going to be huge to see what Memphis can do. Because they played Auburn, I mean, and Auburn beat them handedly, but Memphis was in it for a little bit. And this Memphis team very good. They beat a lot of good teams in that, or they beat UConn in that Maui tournament. So that was a huge win for the Tigers. And yeah, this Memphis team definitely deserves to be up there at 16th, climb 10 spots in there. So good job for the Tigers to get in the rankings and be at 16th. And then Houston drops 11 spots after losing some games. They lost to Alabama in the Players Era Festival. And I believe they lost to someone else. Can't remember who it was, but they did drop 11 spots to 17th. And then Pitt is in the rankings as well. They moved up 8 spots to 18th. That's huge for Pitt. They're going to be a big ACC contender this season. And then North Carolina, well, Illinois is 19th, but North Carolina's 20th. That Alabama and North Carolina play as well tomorrow, so that's a big game. But North Carolina drops a little bit after losing, I believe, to Michigan State in the Maui tournament, which this Michigan State team, not a team to mess around with. They've been good all season ever since we saw them in the State Farm Classic in Atlanta. That was a big thing for them. But North Carolina drops back to 20th. And then Oklahoma goes to 21st. And I mean, Oklahoma's been playing some pretty good basketball. They're 7-0 as well. SEC's looking really good in basketball. And then, the last team I just want to highlight is just UConn, 25th, dropped 23 spots, lost 3 games in the Maui tournament, lost every single game they played. So tough break for UConn, and they fall out, or they almost fall out of the rankings, but could possibly fall out next week if they lose this week. So we'll see. But that is the new men's AP poll. Do have some pretty interesting games though to highlight this week. Obviously, right now the Big 12 Big East Challenge is going on. And currently, Villanova's up on Cincinnati, who is 6-0. Villanova's up 49-43 at Villanova. And then right now, the SEC ACC challenge between Syracuse and Tennessee is going on. Tennessee's only up, but it is first half. And then you got some other games tonight, like Kentucky and Clemson, Ole Miss, Louisville, Texas A&M, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, and Michigan, Wisconsin tonight. So got some games going on tonight that are pretty good. Even a conference game in the Big Ten. That's gonna be huge. But tomorrow night's definitely the main focus when you got some big top 25 matchups. You got Auburn and Duke in Cameron Indoor at 8:15 tomorrow night. Tickets are as low as $610. So, I mean, this game's huge for Auburn and Duke. Auburn's 7-0 in the season, and this Auburn team, like I said, could be number one after they beat Duke. If they do beat Duke, I think they can. I think they honestly can. They have a great team. And then 5:30 tomorrow, you got the Big 12 Big East battle between Baylor and UConn. That's going to be a good game. Maybe Baylor gets upset by the Huskies. It's in UConn, so who knows? We'll see. And then North Carolina's playing Alabama. Alabama's been having a great season so far. That's going to be in Chapel Hill, so that's going to be a huge game for the Tar Heels. And then one of the big games of the week, I don't know if you guys follow the TikTok account I have, but halftime sports talk halftime sports talk TikTok account, I posted the games of the week. Um, and the games of the week this week, Marquette and Iowa State was one of them. And this Marquette Iowa State game, gonna be a huge game. I mean, this is gonna be a big game for Marquette and Iowa State. I mean, number 5 versus number 6, and I mean, Big East Big 12 battle, that's huge. At Iowa State, Marquette's undefeated, 8-0 on the season, so we'll see. That's actually on ESPN Plus. I don't know why, but it is. So that's a weird channel to be on, but that's going to be a big matchup in the Big 12 Big East battle on Wednesday. And then I believe Thursday there is nothing really, Friday nothing. Saturday you do have another big matchup between 8-0 Wisconsin and 8-0 Marquette at Marquette. That's a huge game. And I think honestly, I think that's going to be great. Big matchup at 12:30 on Fox, Saturday, December 7th. So that's going to be college football and college basketball again. But we are heating up college basketball season, just getting started. But we are ready for some more of it in January and February for sure after college football season's over. And then another big matchup on Saturday is at 9 p.m. You got Kentucky and Gonzaga in the battle in Seattle. That's always a huge tournament that Gonzaga hosts, and that's going to be a big chance for Kentucky to show why they could be one of the best teams in the country as well, and possibly improve themselves to. I believe that would be 9-0 if they won this week and then won, or if they won on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever they play, and then won on Saturday, that'd be 9-0. So that'd be a great start for Kentucky. But that's another big game on Saturday, and then Sunday. Let's see. Sunday, you don't really have much going on Sunday. So, really, you do have some conference games, but really, it's the middle of the week is going to be the peak of college basketball for this week, and it's going to be a great week for some college basketball. And those rankings, like I mentioned, we'll see next week on Monday when they come out. We'll recap them again next Tuesday. We'll probably recap those more than the college football playoff poll, maybe. I don't know. But definitely going to be huge to see the men's rankings come out. But going away from men's basketball a little bit, we will be going to women's basketball now. And I mean, man, I don't think I talked about this enough, but um, rankings. South Carolina, for those that don't follow women's basketball enough, South Carolina is not number one anymore. Obviously, a few weeks ago, UCLA beat South Carolina. So, South Carolina's number 3 in the country now. Your women's rankings, you got UCLA, UConn, South Carolina, Texas, LSU, USC, Maryland, Duke, TCU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Kansas State, Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina, Iowa, Ole Miss, Alabama, Iowa State, Illinois, Louisville, Michigan State, and Nebraska. So obviously that's going to be huge, going forward. This women's rankings obviously looks really good. Not much to say. I mean, I say not much to say. I follow the women's sport a lot. Big fan of Auburn women's basketball, but I mean, really the women's rankings is different from the men's. The women's games are a lot more dominant. Like the women blow out a lot more people. Um, but definitely this rankings looks really good. One of the teams that's been surging really, really fast has been TCU. They've been 8-0 on the season and just had some great wins this season. Recently had a win against Notre Dame, which was an upset. So just some big wins for TCU. And Haley Van Lith, actually, the transfer from LSU, has been leading that TCU squad up to that 9th ranking spot. And then this Duke team, too. Duke all of a sudden's become really good. They're possibly projected a 2 seed as of right now in the new bracketology. So definitely definitely something to look out for. Hopefully the women's sport gets more recognition this year. Going to be a fun year for women's and men's college basketball. Some women's games to highlight this week that are going to be big. You got the women's ACC SEC challenge this week. Nothing really going on tonight. A lot of just cupcake games for some teams. But tomorrow night for the women's SEC challenge, you got number 11 Oklahoma at number 22 Louisville. It's at Louisville, so that's going to be a huge game for both of those teams, Oklahoma in the SEC, Louisville in the ACC. Who's going to take that first game and get the ACC or SEC the lead in the challenge. I don't know, but that's gonna be a big game at 4 p.m. tomorrow on ESPN2. So watch that game if you can. Tickets as low as $5 for that game. I know it sounds weird. It's a ranked versus ranked game, but that's big. Um, and obviously Thursday, you got some great women's games. You got number 8 Duke at number 3 South Carolina on 8 p.m. on ESPN. That's going to be a huge game between those two teams. South Carolina really doesn't lose at home much, so going to be a big matchup for those two. This Duke team's been surging lately. Only losses to Maryland, and South Carolina's only losses to UCLA. So that's definitely huge, and we'll see what happens on Thursday with those two teams. And then you got this many consider blue bloods in men's basketball, and you can consider them blue bloods in women's basketball as well. You got Kentucky and North Carolina playing each other at 4 p.m. on Thursday. That's going to be a huge game. Number 14 versus number 16 at North Carolina. So that's gonna be a big game for SEC ACC challenge. Like I mentioned, SEC versus ACC this year is gonna be huge. I mean, a lot of great matchups for the women and men this year. Um, and then 6 p.m. on ESPN, you got Texas and Notre Dame. Those are two highly sought programs in the SEC as well, or SEC and ACC. They're both just very good programs. Texas from the SEC, Notre Dame from the ACC. So huge. That's gonna be in South Bend, Indiana, and that should be a great game. And then you got Ole Miss and NC State. NC State kind of having a down year this year, but still very good team. They're 3-0 at home, so we'll see what happens in that matchup. That's at 6 p.m. on ESPN2, so another good matchup between number 18 Ole Miss and NC State. And then you got Stanford and LSU. That's going to be huge. Stanford recently had their coach retire, but that's LSU. This LSU team really hasn't been tested this season. So we'll see their first test against Stanford at home in the SEC ACC Challenge in Baton Rouge. So that's going to be huge between those two teams at 8 p.m. on ESPN2. And then Alabama will play Cal, who only has one loss, 4-0 at home, but Cal does have one loss this season. Alabama is undefeated 9-0, 19th in the nation. This is going to be Alabama's, first major test really, and it's going to be a big game out west for Alabama. The time difference might play a factor, but we will see. And those are some good games for the ACC SEC Challenge on Thursday. Don't believe there's any games Friday. Yeah, not really any games Friday that we should look out for. Saturday, uh, not really any either. Actually, Saturday, no, is the championship or Champions Classic in women's. You got number 5 Tennessee in New York against Iowa, who's number 17 in the country. Caitlin Clark not on that team anymore, but Iowa still going strong without her and looking good, 8-0 on the season. And then the other game in the championship classic is Louisville and UConn. Number 2 UConn will be basically at home in Brooklyn, very close to home. And that should be a great game for the second game of the championships classic. So look out for those games on Saturday, December 7th. Action-packed Saturday with football, women's basketball, and men's basketball. And then Sunday, you don't really have much games. You don't have any ranked versus ranked games, but definitely look out for possibly some upsets. Actually, no, never mind. Actually, one game there is the USLBM Coast to Coast Challenge, which has South Carolina and TCU. That will be in Fort Worth, Texas, and it's gonna be huge at TCU basically. So South Carolina's gonna get another test on the road at 6 p.m. on Sunday. So that should be a great matchup between those two teams. And just so far this season, or so far for football, basketball, just been great way to start the season. I mean, football has been great. That's just been phenomenal with the 12-team playoff. Basketball, I love it. It's starting back finally. This is the peak time for college basketball. Can't wait to see more of it come January, February, March, and obviously the champion will be crowned in April. And then, I mean, it's just gonna be a great few next month, or gonna be a ah, slipping up with words, but gonna be the next few months are gonna be great for sports in general. But you know that I believe, I don't know. Let's actually, I did forget to talk about NFL. What the heck am I doing? Yeah, NFL. I mean, what's going on? let's just kind of break down what's going on in the NFL. Um, and I mean, we saw we saw this past week actually Matt Eberflus has been fired from the Bears after his terrible execution on Thanksgiving Day. Just absolutely terrible execution on Thanksgiving Day. Forgot to call a timeout, and the Bears had to throw a Hail Mary. Did not go well. Ended up getting fired the very next day, and just absolutely incredible loss for Chicago. But looks like they'll have to move on with another head coach eventually, and Caleb Williams will have another coach next year. So we'll see how the Bears do the rest of the season, but their playoff hopes are about done, I would say, after they lost again, or after they lost again on Thanksgiving Day. And then obviously, we did see some great games on Sunday. Um, you saw, well, actually Thursday, well, no, Thursday I wouldn't say great games. I'd say Sunday we saw some great games between the Chargers, Falcons. I mean, Chargers 17-13. Kirk Cousins throws 4 picks, and the fans are calling for Cousins to be benched after that, and they want Michael Penix. But the Falcons drop another one and go to 6-6, and this division race getting pretty close with the Buccaneers catching up. Buccaneers are actually tied now, so it's gonna be crazy to end this season. See who wins the NFC South division. But that was another crazy game on Sunday between the Chargers and Falcons, and Chargers dropped one, or the Falcons dropped one there as Cousins failed to get his team in the end zone in the final minutes. And then obviously a big game, big crucial game that was definitely something that I was kind of surprised about, but also not surprised about. The Steelers go in to Cincinnati and get a big win, 44-38. Russell Wilson throws season high 414 yards, 3 TDs. Just a great game for the Bengals. And I mean, this Steelers team is going to be scary in the playoffs, and I can't wait to see what happens. With the Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Bengals obviously, having a terrible season. And what's going to happen with Zach Taylor at the end of the season? There's a chance he might be fired come the end of the season, I would think. And it's gonna be heartbreaking if that happens because he was the one that got the Bengals back to reality, honestly. Like they were able to get back to being good again. Sorry, I gotta put a pillow on my back. It's killing me right now. But yeah, I mean, honestly, he was the one to get the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So just honestly, if you fired a guy like that, that would be hard to let go of him. But we'll see what Cincinnati does moving forward. Going away from that game, though, you had the Cardinals and Vikings. Cardinals and Vikings actually, um, Vikings won fifth straight game after Sam Darnold's TD pass with 113 left. Just a great way. He threw it to Aaron Jones actually. And that was a great win for the Vikings. 10-2 on the season, just a stellar season. Nobody thought this was going to happen for Minnesota, but it did, and that's huge. And Minnesota might, they're about to clinch a playoff spot soon, and that's going to be big for the Vikings. Possibly division if the Lions lose, but the Lions are on a hot streak right now. And then, honestly, other games to highlight, Eagles Ravens was great, but what is going on with Justin Tucker? I mean, Justin Tucker missed a bunch of kicks, I believe 3 or 4 in that game against Philly, and that was not good at all. And I mean, Justin Tucker, who knows? Hot take, he might get cut. I'm just saying, he might get cut from the Ravens. He's getting a little too old now, and the Ravens might have to move on with a different kicker. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Because I honestly feel like Justin Tucker definitely needs to get his shit together if he's going to continue to be kicker. And that was just like, I mean, that just stood out to me the most on Sunday too, that he missed that many kicks. And it was just incredible to see the Eagles get another win and go to 10-2. Eagles will play Carolina next week. And the Ravens, I don't know who they play, but Ravens need to get it together before the playoffs. Speaking of Carolina, I actually want to talk about that. Obviously, I am a Panthers fan. Sucks to be a Panthers fan right now. Well, it kind of does, kind of doesn't. The reason it kind of doesn't is because Bryce Young. I want to talk about Bryce freaking Young. Um, First off, I'm sorry. Um, Deeply sorry. I said this guy would not amount to anything. I was going along with what everybody else said. I was like, oh, Bryce Young this, Bryce Young that. He sucks. He's not made for the NFL. He's not an NFL quarterback. And what do I know? I mean, what do I know? I mean, if you watch this game, he's making throws that looked like it looked like he was playing at Alabama again. Like I literally was like an Auburn fan hoping that he didn't get the ball downfield and we would win the game. Or like Auburn would end up winning the game because Bryce couldn't get the ball downfield, but he ended up doing it somehow. Um and he threw one of those great passes to Tommy Tremble. He was under pressure, able to get out of the pocket, throws a dot downfield to Tommy Tremble. Um, and then, later on in the game, actually early in the game, he ran in for a touchdown. That was great to see. And then, I mean, literally 36 seconds left. He steps up in the pocket, throws a perfect ball. I mean, that pass almost had me crying. Like, I literally, as a Panthers fan, I almost started crying because I was like, we have our guy. Like, we found our guy. I was like, this dude, he proved to me that he can go out every week and perform to a level that we can win a football game. And I mean, I know we lost, but the reason we lost, the defense sucks. Eddie Pinheiro, I don't know what happened. That was just because it was super cold, I think. But honestly, Bryce Young, really proud. I'm very glad to see a smile back on his face. He's loving football again. He's confident. And I'm telling you, next year, the Panthers obviously out of playoff contention. They'll probably win a few more games this season. Bryce Young could probably win them 3 or 4. But honestly, next year, look out for, for the Carolina Panthers. Not being biased, look out for the Carolina Panthers to be a scary football team next year if Bryce Young does this same stuff. If he's doing the same stuff next year, the Panthers will win the NFC South, and who knows, they might win a few playoff games as well. And honestly, tough loss. Chuba Hubbard, that fumble that happened, you know, he he's got to hold on to the ball, but tough situation. I don't know. Maybe the Panthers go into Philly and get a win. I don't know. Who knows? But we'll see. I do think Carolina's going to have a great draft pick coming up. I mean, I think they found a lot of key pieces in that franchise already. I think Young has become the quarterback. I think Dave Canales is the coach for them. And I think Dan Morgan is the perfect GM for Carolina to get the job done, get back to the playoffs, and make something special happen in Charlotte and get that city out of its misery finally. And as a Panthers fan, I would say if they made the playoffs next year, I might fall to my knees and start crying because I would be so happy. But going away, obviously going to go away from NFL now. Um, Actually, wait, I forgot. I keep forgetting. Just too much talking. But I forgot one more game to mention. Last night, Monday Night Football. What did I witness? I witnessed Jameis Winston throw for almost 500 yards. Jameis Winston threw 497, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions, and a pick six. But let's forget about that. Jameis Winston threw for how many yards? Almost 500. And this guy is a backup quarterback or starting quarterback right now, but technically should be a backup quarterback. I don't think so. Jameis Winston next year needs to be signed to a small deal with the Browns. I think he can get something going. Um, he kind of has limited his turnovers. I think he's the perfect fit for the Browns. And honestly, I feel like the Browns can win with him as quarterback. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Browns, if they end up next year not signing James Winston, that would be the stupidest decision, I think, for them. They need to sign him back for sure. But Bo Nix, too. I mean, on the other side, the Broncos, Bo Nix had a great game. Did throw some interceptions, but he had a pretty good game overall. Won his first Monday night game as a rookie, and now improves the Broncos to 8-5, and probably puts them in playoff spot now at 8-5. So that's going to be huge the Broncos to get in the playoffs possibly for the first time in a long time. So if Bo can do something, that'd be great. That'd be another rookie quarterback that we've seen get his team in the playoffs. Last year, CJ Stroud did, so that was something big that we saw. But now we will finally go away from NFL. But honestly, I think that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for episode 2 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. Don't forget to go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go follow the TikTok account. Go follow me on Instagram as well at Halftime Sports Talk Show Official. Um, and honestly, hope you guys have a great week. We'll be back next Tuesday to recap some more college football playoff news, also some more college basketball, and also some more NFL recap.